Retinol, vitamin A, retinoic acid. For a lot of ladies out there, they're using a lot of products that got retinoic acid in it for skin health. But eventually, you can go over here and have very high levels of it, and that's not a good thing. So I'm going to give you a complete diagnostic tool here today about how to get it in the optimal range here. Now, it's not just skin health. It's a genetic switch. Brand new mitochondria, creating your ATP in your trillions of cells. And it's also going to give you better detox, gut lining, also your intestines. It's going to give you a lot more testosterone consistently. And it's also a genetic switch for your SIRT1 longevity genes, the master longevity genes, and collagen production. And this is why retinoic acid is, up there. But as I mentioned, you can go over there and I'll give you a complete diagnostic tool today. And it's not complicated. You can do this by yourself. And then over here, what about stem cells? So you've heard about stem cells? They are repairing tissues and organs. And it's just going to give you higher resilience, emotional and physical resilience, and better recovery. So it's not too hard to get it back into the optimal zone. It's one of the most underrated vitamins in our body that we need to get optimal. So as I mentioned there, retinoic acid, stem cells, hormones, detox, the gut. A lot of people don't have a very healthy gut, and this can be, along with vitamin D, a big reason why they don't have good gut health. But, this is why so many people are using it for skin health, collagen synthesis. The last video I did, I talked all about collagen synthesis, so I'm just going to do a very deep dive in retinoic acid, because it is huge. If it's too high or too low, all bets are off. You're not going to produce a lot of collagen, elastin, everything you need for skin health. Immune health, mitochondria, longevity genes, stem cells, it is huge. So here is just a quick overview of our diagnostic model. So we got to have a look at why. We got to assess first why it could be low or high and talk about what we need to do to get it in that butter zone. And it's not that difficult. The previous video I did here, we talked about collagen. So everybody's using it for skin health. And I talked about vitamin A, retinol, and that. So it's retinoic acid. But we're talking about your heart valve, your venous system, your bone, your ligaments and tendons. So retinol's needed for all of that, along with vitamin C and a whole bunch of other cofactors like manganese. So like if you're just continually putting on your body, on your skin, retinoic acid, it can get toxic and it backfires on you. So the complete diagnostic tool I will share with you here today, it's going to be a pretty handy tool. So in a nutshell, we've got to make sure that it is optimal and the body can get it there when we choose the right foods. And I'll show you those foods here today. And genetics also plays into it. Beta-carotene from plants. A lot of people that we've tested, over 380 now. Some people have a diminished capacity of up to 90% to take beta-carotene and turn it into retinol. So they're never, ever going to be able to eat plants to make enough retinoic acid for everything that I've talked about here today. Now, that's a very extreme case. I've seen about five like that with over 380. Myself, I'm 73%. So I don't focus on plants, man. There's your first clue. So the blueprint right here, the optimal retinoic acid. So we've got to store it in the liver and be able to use it on demand. So hormones, detox, gut, collagen, mitochondria, longevity. Again, just wanted to go over that. So right here, we're just going to go deep into the weeds a little bit about how important it is for detox. You got all these P450 enzymes for detoxification, and you need optimal levels of retinoic acid. The same is true for testosterone production, brand new mitochondria in all of your cells, the longevity genes, you know, tight junctions for your gut, collagen, so T regulatory cells for immune health, So pretty important. I just wanted to stop here and we're going to have a look at genetics with the conversion. Like here's all the genes here, and I'll talk that in more detail about that towards the end. But this is huge. Like again, I've tested over 380 people, and a lot of them, like you can see here, homozygous, heterozygous. So that's about a 73% diminished capacity. And I'm seeing this quite frequently. And I've crunched the numbers, and about most of them are about 50%. Some are 30, some are 90%. And I'm seeing this very, very frequently. So another thing that you probably don't know yet about retinoic acid is thyroid hormones. So your thyroid, the active form called T3, goes into the nucleus of your cell. So genetics plays into that. So that's step number one to switch on your metabolism, your thyroid hormone, fat loss, protein synthesis, energy, testosterone. And this is the retinoic receptor here. So it's a genetic switch. So you have to have enough to go around. Now, if you don't have enough to go around, you're never going to have optimal thyroid, even if your labs look okay. And you can't test for retinol. You have to look at it indirectly, and I'll show you how to do that today. Now, here is Dr. J and myself on a consult with a legend that we're helping. And this legend here has got a 90% diminished capacity. So again, I've only seen it personally in about 5 people, but it is a huge deal. Absolutely huge.
Now, carotene, he's got a shockingly high reduced conversion of carotene to retinol. This is a rare gene. Um, Probably one of the more rare genes on his whole report. So I would say don't eat carrots and you know sweet potatoes, things that are really bright orange in the plant realm,
Yeah,
because his that vitamin A, that plant vitamin A, the carotene is just going to stay in his system.
plug everything up. And retinol is needed to activate T3 in the nuclear receptor. So,
Yeah, good point. Yeah, with the thyroid gene, super
yeah,
important.
stem cells, what else does it do? He's not making a lot of it.
Everything. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
it's involved in testosterone production. If you're super deficient, you see that more. But yeah, there's a lot of things.
And you know what the gurus out there tell you to do? Take this supplement, take that supplement. You give your body the right inputs, it will give you the right outputs for life. And it's not difficult to figure this out. It just takes a curious, open mind. So, as I mentioned there, these are the big genes right here, and you can test for that. But my recommendation would, if you want to truly optimize for retinol and retinoic acid, you see, carrots here, beta-carotene has to be converted, and that's an ATP. You need energy to make that conversion anyway. So if you're low on energy, you're not going to convert a lot of beta-carotene into retinol and retinoic acid. So retinol also has to be converted into retinoic acid for skin health. And you need a lot of cofactors in that conversion. So, what we want to just appreciate is the symptoms. So we'll talk about the symptoms in a moment. So, if you are here, you've more than likely you've got optimal retinoic acid, and that's what we see with the people that we're helping. Their energy comes back, their testosterone comes back up, their glutathione starts to optimize, and they start to sleep and feel good. A lot of motivation, a lot of get up and go. But again, a lot of people can have it too high, and I'm going to show you why yours could be very high. So we're going to start walking through this. Now, again, I've just touched on genetics, and with just one gene, that's the conversion of beta-carotene into retinol, then it has to be further converted into retinoic acid. So here are the genes. So on the low side, there are all the genes there. You got a whole bunch of these alcohol dehydrogenase genes that take retinol and convert into retinoic acid. So don't make the mistake of thinking, oh, alcohol, right? So there's a big class of enzymes that, yes, metabolize alcohol, but they metabolize a lot of other things. They also convert these alcohol dehydrogenase genes, proteins, retinol into retinoic acid. And some people have very slow conversion there genetically. And that can screw up testosterone, dopamine. It can really mess things up. Then over here on the high side, you just got very fast clearance in some of them. So that I very rarely see anybody with this, but A lot of people, they've got the slow genotype there, and they've got it's not too difficult to get it back to optimal. You just have to focus on the right foods and also optimize your energy pathways, namely mitochondria. Now, I just want to pause here. You heard me speak about alcohol dehydrogenase. So, what burdens that whole system? Because as you can now appreciate, vitamin A, we don't want to burden this system because we want to convert retinol into retinoic acid so we can switch on genes for longevity, for testosterone, for detox, for collagen. You get the idea. So, of course, ethanol will burden that. But if you've got a bit of a yeast or fungal infection, like your toenails have got a bit of a fungal infection, or you don't have good gut health, more than likely you're producing aldehydes, which have got to go through that alcohol dehydrogenase. And again, don't focus on the alcohol, it's really badly named. And of course, yeah, your high sugar diet, especially fructose from fruits there. So when you consume fruits, like I'm not saying don't eat fruits, but if you've got slow pathways here, you might want to lower the amount of fruit you're eating because two metabolites in the metabolism of fructose, you're producing offsprings of aldehydes, and that's going to burden your ability to take retinol and convert it enzymatically through the protein alcohol dehydrogenase into retinoic acid. And I just want to also focus on dopamine here for a moment. Now, don't worry too much about that. I just want to focus in on two parts of this pathway for dopamine metabolism. So when we use dopamine, it's got to come down to optimal levels, and so is epinephrine and adrenaline there. But you see this here? That's the alcohol dehydrogenase. So your neurotransmitters are being metabolized and it's slow. That's what that little indication means there. So you can imagine here, if dopamine goes up and you need to calm it down, because it is toxic at high levels, it can cause a lot of irritability and frustration and anxiety. And the same is true with epinephrine there. So you get jittery and then, but all of a sudden your energy just comes crashing down when you actually metabolize it. And also, one of the most important pathways in your body there, the synthesis of phosphatidylcholine, which turns into acetylcholine, alcohol dehydrogenase there. So it can make an aldehyde there, then you've got to metabolize it. So there's rate limiting steps in it, but what we've got to do is take the burden off this gene so we can actually free it to take retinol and convert it into retinoic acid for all the health benefits that I've outlined here today. So let's go over the test that you can do now. Without question, this organics acid test, otherwise known as an oats test, that is the gold standard. That's going to really show you where the bottlenecks are. Now, if you want more information about that, two things, drop a comment below and I'll do a whole video about interpreting an organics acid test, or you can reach out to me by simply going into the caption there and booking a call, and I can walk you through all of that, how we can work that for you. Now, right here, this is how we're going to work it out, okay? So in a nutshell, if you are low, you're focusing on probably the carrots and shit and low fat, because where's retinol? Well, it's in eggs, dairy, and red meat. Okay, that's where it is. And we're going to get a healthy dose of it when we focus on those nutrient dense foods. So it's retinol. Now remember, beta-carotene has to be converted through a protein into retinol, and that requires ATP, energy. So you don't want to be wasting your energy taking beta-carotene and converting it into retinol. And then if you got this slow BCO1, there's a whole bunch of variants there, and up to 90%. And me personally, 73%. So, yeah, I don't focus on too many vegetables to optimize retinoic acid. Then if you've got poor gut health and your aldehydes are up, your oxalates are up, we're going to have issues as well. And if you've got a poor liver, if you've got a bit of liver stress as well, because you're not eating enough choline from eggs, like if you don't get enough choline from eggs, you will have liver stress, your enzymes will be up, and then you can't convert retinol into retinoic acid and actually store it in the liver too. And if you're not methylating properly, now a great lab to get is what's called homocysteine. Now, if you do get, like, let's just go back to the organics acid test. That will show you it. So you don't really need to test homocysteine, but if you choose to test homocysteine to see where your methylation status is, your homocysteine should be between 5 and at a max 8. If it's north of 10, you're in trouble. If you've got chronic stress and inflammation, and there's a lot of genetics also that can play into it as well, and we test all of them. Now, the reason it's going to go too high, quite frankly, is you're supplementing retinol and you're also not pulsing it. So you're just getting way too much in too frequently. You think you're doing the right thing, but it goes too high. And being low is much better than being too high. Too high is very toxic. And if you're always taking cod liver oil and eating a lot of liver, yeah, you're going to be in trouble. And of course, if you've got prescription retinoids from, the skincare professional, that can be a problem. And if you're always using these retinol-based skin creams, that can also impact it. And also a few genes play into it as well. So in a nutshell, the complete retinoic acid diagnostic model, as I've just gone over there. Lifestyle. So how are you feeling? So, where's your testosterone? You got V8 grunt, you got get up and go, you got all those things working for you. What about your genes? Do you need to do genetic testing to really optimize this? Because what you don't know, you can't fix. So the assessment quite simply is if it's low, you got a lot of symptoms. If it's optimal, you probably wouldn't be listening to this video. You got good skin health, you got good testosterone production, you got good stem cell output, your redox potential is nice and high. And if it's too high, really you probably should do an oats test there and reassess using all of those products that I mentioned there and letting the liver detox the retinol because that's pretty huge. So bang, that's it right there. So if you've got any of these symptoms on the low side, you could have, but it could be other things as well. You could have an undiagnosed autoimmune disease process like I had 8 years ago. You might need to do some detective work. But if you're up here, you got good skin health, you don't have gut issues, you don't have joint issues, you don't have any of those issues, you don't have fungal issues on your nails. But if you're over here too high, well, I guess you know who you are because you've been chronically supplementing all of that stuff that I mentioned here. The supplements, too much liver all the time, cod liver oil, prescription retinols, and all these skin-based retinols, you could be too high. Now, on the next video, I want to dive deep into energy production because retinol, if you want collagen to work, you want good stem cell production, you want your longevity genes to be in the up position so you live a very long, powerful life and you age like fine wine. This is the citric acid cycle inside the mitochondria, and this is the electron transport chain where you create your ATP. And you see all this here? That's the cofactors. I mean, it's just incredible. And that also is very easy to test for to see where the bottlenecks are. So I'm going to do a deep dive on that next week, and that's what it's going to look like here. So the metabolic gridlock, we're going to talk about symptoms and what to look out for. And over here, the smooth energy pathway. So the analogy I like to give the people that I help is that, the mitochondria, it's all about energy, but they do a lot more than that. They are a necessary step to make your man juice, protein synthesis, make neurotransmitters, immune health, gut health, huge. But if you're lacking the cofactors there, and it's not difficult to select the right foods to make sure you've got optimal cofactors. So as you age, you're not tapping out, As you age, the V8 engine is downgraded into a four-cylinder, and eventually, like I was 8 years ago, you're blowing smoke. You're in an undiagnosed autoimmune disease process. So right there, what we want to do is stop destroying the mitochondria. We'll talk about that next week. Start rebuilding them and also feed them the nutrients they need to thrive. And that's them there. So if you like what I'm about, which is superior human performance, longevity, consider subscribing. And again, that's it. High, bad, low, bad, optimal, we're good.